Alright, so this is week 1 assignments, and I'm going to be taking a look at the criminal justice models. So these are just some of my personal thoughts and introduction to this. I do think that the criminal justice system is super intricate and it has multiple stages and decisions at each point that can significantly affect the outcome of a case. The models that researchers use to help us break down these complexities can help us have a better understanding on how the decisions are made, the role of laws, and how societal factors come into play. So, one well-known model is the crime control model, which is something that I touch on later, and it prioritizes the swift and efficient apprehension and punishment of offenders. I think these models help us examine the balance between completing goals, like ensuring fairness versus public safety. They also have highlighted how systemic issues like class, race, and socioeconomic status can come into play. So the first model that I took a look at was the wedding cake model. So honestly, what grabbed my attention for this model, I've never heard it before, was the name, because I love cake. The wedding cake model theory, developed by Samuel Walker, provides a framework for understanding how different types of cases move through the criminal justice system and how society and the media treats them. The model uses the metaphor of a wedding cake, with layers representing varying levels of crime. The bottom layer consists of common cases such as misdemeanors, traffic violations, and often involving first-time offenders, I learned. And these cases are typically resolved quickly with fines rather than jail time, and rarely have any media attention at all, which is good. So examples of this layer include offenses like speeding tickets or public intoxication. The second layer includes lower level felonies, both violent and nonviolent, which often end in plea bargains and consume significant court time. These could be Class C felonies like simple assault or drug possession. The third layer represents more serious felonies, typically violent crimes committed by offenders with extensive criminal records. These cases are more likely to go to trial, and if convicted, result in prison time. Examples might include Class B felonies like armed robbery or aggravated assault. The top layer, made up of celebrated cases, consists of high-profile crimes that receive extensive media coverage, often involving well-known individuals and leading to severe punishment like life imprisonment or the death penalty. So such examples are O.J. Simpson, Ted Bundy, are very rare but can disproportionately shape public perception of crime. The wedding cake model highlights how media focus on these sensational cases can skew public views, while more frequently, less traumatic crimes like petty theft or minor drug offenses go unnoticed. So I listed some pros of the wedding cake model. I do think it does have benefits that make it a useful framework for understanding the criminal justice system. So it simplifies complex processes, helps us break down the criminal justice system into more manageable layers, making it easier to understand the different types of cases and how they are treated at various stages, highlights the disparity in case handling, significant differences in how cases are processed, with serious felonies receiving more attention and resources compared to common demeanors. Shows the role of media and how that comes into play, like public perception of crime, and how it illustrates sensational cases at the top layer of the cake. Reflects real-world case outcomes. By categorizing crimes based on severity, offender history, and media attention, the model aligns with how cases are actually handled in practice, demonstrating how plea bargains, convictions, and sentencing often plays out in the real world. So I think it helped encourage critical thinking for me. It invites us to learn about how societal values and biases may shape which crime receives the most attention and which will receive the least. And then it has a very clear distinction between each case types, which I think that speaks for itself. So here are some cons that I listed out. So there's a little bit of oversimplification. I think it assumes that all cases within a layer are treated similarly, which is not often true. I think it also neglects systemic issues such as racial bias, regional differences, or socioeconomic factors. It limits focus on rehabilitation rather than on the potential for rehabilitation or restorative justice, which can be an important aspect of the justice system, obviously. So it ignores evolving legal trends. As criminal justice practice evolves, the model may not adequately capture new developments, such as changes in how certain crimes are handled, like drug possession, or the increased focus on alternatives to incarceration. So that makes me think of mental health, how that comes into play now. Disregards public perception. It highlights the media's influence on perceptions of crime. The model doesn't explore in depth how public attitudes may differ across different communities or how they perceive influence policymaking and resource allocation. So I think it assumes uniformity, that such as like low-level crimes are handled pretty similarly, but different regions or judges or prosecutors may treat them way differently than other people. And then it also excludes other forms of crime. So focuses on violent crimes. The model doesn't always capture the full spectrum of crime, such as white collar crime, cyber crime, environmental offenses, which is treated way differently. So, moving on to the crime control model, which is developed by Herbert Lee L. Packer, in the 1960s. Emphasizes the need for an efficient criminal justice system that prioritizes suppressing and controlling crime to maintain public safety and order. In this model, the primary goal is to quickly apprehend offenders and ensure severe, swift punishments to protect society, sometimes at the cost of individual rights. This process is often kind of like an assembly line where law enforcement apprehends suspects, court determine guilt, and offenders are punished sometimes through plea bargains to avoid lengthy trials. For example, in a situation where a man commits a shooting at a gym, the crime control model would focus on quickly arresting the suspect and ensuring punishment, possibly overlooking legal technicalities or due process rights, as the priority is to protect the community and ensure justice for the victims. The model reflects kind of a more conservative approach, in my opinion, where public safety takes precedence over safeguarding constitutional rights, with the assumption that maintaining order and swiftly punishing offenders is the most effective way to deter crime. It's not always true. So here's some pros that I listed. So I think it's very efficient, allows the criminal justice system to handle a large volume of cases very quickly. And I think that deterrence also comes into play. It sends a clear message that criminal behavior will be met with significant consequences, which is definitely a positive. It focuses on public safety, on ensuring that dangerous individuals are very quickly removed from society. And then also by minimizing, lengthy trials and encouraging plea bargains, the model can save a lot of court time and allow resources to be saved. So for victim rights that I listed, It really emphasizes justice for victims, aiming to quickly address crimes, as I stated before. And then there's a very clear outcome which can foster public confidence in the criminal justice system's ability to maintain order. So, 1, 2, 4. Here are some cons. It could be a wrongful conviction because of how fast that I feel like this process is moving. There is a little bit of an infringement on individual rights because it prioritizes crime control over individual freedom. The model can undermine constitutional protections, just such as like the right to a fair trial or protection against unlawful searches and seizures. So, over-reliance on plea bargains, it can result in offenders receiving lighter sentences than they deserve. And there's kind of a disregard for rehabilitation, and it can fail to address the root causes of criminal behavior or prevent them from doing it again. And then I think there's kind of a very unfair impact on marginalized groups, such as racial minorities or those with limited access to quality legal representation. They're contributing to systemic inequalities in the justice system. And I think there's an increased risk of abuse of power because of how quickly it moves, and they might be violated of privacy or unnecessary use of force. So, when we compare these two, I think the wedding cake model views criminal justice professionals as handling cases based on severity, dedicating time and more resources to a serious crime, and providing minimal attention to a minor offense. It kind of emphasizes fairness for the accused, especially in serious cases. Convicted individuals are sentenced according to the severity of their crimes, with lighter punishments for less serious offenses and harsher penalties for more severe ones. So victims are often given in serious cases, and the model strives to balance fairness for the accused with community protection. So, however, the crime control model prioritizes a very swift and efficient processing of all cases, which professionals focused on quickly apprehending and punishing offenders to maintain public order. The accused are often receive threats, or they're viewed as threats, with a focus on deterrence and sometimes the cost of their own rights. I think that convicted individuals face severe punishment just because it's aimed in like retribution, and there's a lot of less emphasis on rehabilitation and building up the person again. Victim rights are prioritized, and the focus is on quick justice and protecting communities through effective crime. So, I'd say in conclusion, the wedding cake model and the crime control model offers a contrasting approach to the criminal justice system, with the former emphasizing fairness and individualized attention based on the severity of crimes, while the later prioritizes swift, efficient processes and maintaining public order. The wedding cake model balances the rights of the accused, victims, and community safety. The crime control model focuses more on deterring crime and ensuring quick justice, often at the expense of a due process. Both models highlight different priorities, but together they underscore the challenge of balancing efficiency, fairness, and public safety in a complex criminal justice system. Here are my citations. Thank you for listening.